Though we'll blow things right back to Natalie.
All right, maybe it's a good day to stay indoors. Thank you, John. And that brings us to our next story. With parents working longer hours, many students don't have parental supervision when they get home from school. So after-school activities can fill this gap, keeping students safe and putting parents at ease. But the demand for programs far exceed the number of students who need them. So now some members of the City Council want that to change. So joining us now is Councilman Ben Kallos. Thank you so much for being here. Now, you are a co-sponsor of this proposed legislation, and so this would mandate free universal after-school care. So maybe let's just start by talking about how does this work and why this is important.
First, thanks for having me on the show. Good morning to the viewers. There are over 500,000 children in New York State who go unsupervised after school. Parents work longer hours than ever before. And between the hours of 2 and 6 after school is when there's a spike in children getting in trouble with the police. This program would be a win-win. It would keep the kids positively engaged, out of the police, and onto a big, bright future.
Okay, so we're talking about getting them involved in all kinds of activities. So what are the benefits then, so to the families and to the children?
I'm a new parent, and I rely on an extended school day for my daughter in childcare so that my wife and I can both work full-time, which is kind of what's required if you want to live in this big city.
Yes.
And one of my colleagues, Costa Constantinides, just wrote an op-ed. He was spending $400 a month in after-school programs for his son, and this is a problem parents are having in all 5 boroughs. The after-school is just so expensive. This could save families a lot of money. For the families who can't even afford it, this would get their kids off the streets and really help with some of the things that we're seeing, including that story you just reported on where kids are getting in trouble with each other after school. Let's get them off the streets.
Yeah, $400, that's a lot of money, too much money for a lot of families. And your office provided us with some information, some stats, some numbers, and approximately, so it's 700,000 students, and that is just not New York City, that's New York State. I think you were saying over 500,000 are going unsupervised. How did you guys come up with that number?
We relied on numbers from the After School Alliance. They did a survey. We also looked at the fact that there's 1.1 million students in our public school system, and only about 350,000 of them are getting these after-school programs. Mayor de Blasio announced that we were going to have universal after-school for middle school students. We're now serving 77,000. We have after-school for about 47,000 elementary school students, and our hope is to get these numbers a lot higher and serve a lot more children, and I don't think it's going to cost that much.
Okay, because we were talking about just how many children there are that need these services, and you said it won't cost that much, but can we get into that? How much will this cost? I mean, it's got to be expensive for all those students.
To serve the 77,000 middle school kids, it's costing about $180 million. We're spending about $150 million to serve the 47,000 elementary students. We think that if we can get to 100,000, that'll serve a lot of the need of the kids who need it, and we think that'll cost about $100 million. The city's saying $250 million, but just to call it out, the juvenile justice system in our city is costing almost $1 billion. So I think this system pays for itself and delivers a future for these children.
Okay, so $100 million is your estimate, but where would this money come from?
I think it's just the cost savings from juvenile justice. I think it's just offsetting and letting parents work longer hours and pay more in their taxes. And ultimately, we've just seen our budget continue to grow. So with $94 billion, I think we're going to have a bigger budget this coming year, and I think we can cover these costs.
And there are going to be some people that say, should this be the city's responsibility, or should it be up to parents to really make their own arrangements for their children?
I don't think our parents can afford it. About a huge portion, a majority of the students in our schools are Title I, which means they're coming from families that are at or below the poverty line in our city, and this is just something parents can't afford in our city. And if we want our kids safe, if we want them supervised, if we want them to have a bright future, we need to make sure that they have these after-school programs. But that being said, I'm hoping that your viewers will reach out to Mayor de Blasio, to their local council member, and say, we really love universal middle school. We want to see universal elementary and high school. We want to get our kids off the streets, get them after school, keep them positively engaged, and have a beautiful future for them.
Yes, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing back from a lot of our viewers on this. And so just lastly, to sneak in, what happens next? with this legislation?
We're actually going to sit down with the mayor today to talk about what the budget's going to look like. And so I think our goal is, with the support of Speaker Corey Johnson, Youth Services Chair Debbie Rose, who are on this legislation, we're hoping that we can pass it, get this mandate, and then get into the budget negotiations of what the rollout looks like and how much it's going to cost, and just get it done.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Councilman Kallos. We will be watching.
Thank you.